was quite the, I would say she was an amazingly artistic talent, maybe not
Oh, yes.
as widely known as she deserved to be. Her work certainly was at the caliber of a much more well-known artist.
Yeah, she was way before her time, not only with her talent and her creativity, but the topic she basically chose with she was proud of her heritage, but she really loved God. I mean, I don't know anybody today that loved the Lord as much as my mother, but at the same time, she was proud of her heritage. Mm-hmm. And so she hung on to that, her riches, her spirituality. She was a master herbalist. She held on to her heritage and her culture and her faith. So and she got a lot of flack for that from some places. You know, some people didn't understand that. Some people didn't understand her. But I mean, I think she was a very strong woman. She was a very strong woman, and she was very much ahead of her time. And I believe, she may not had been appreciated in her time, but I mean, as time moves forward, I think more and more people is going to come around and see it for the artistic talent that she actually is and was.
The Obeah Woman by Anastasia A Armourer. Chapter 4. Payaco Airport is small, but very busy. People from all around the world arrived there to visit the island. It is a happy place where visitors are greeted with smiles and flowers. Detective Roy Lazar checked his watch as he and his partner, Karen Luke, waited for the BWIA jet to unload its passengers. He was very nervous about meeting the American agents that were sent to help with the investigations. 10 children, all from tourist families, were missing and 3 American businessmen were dead. All in the space of 3 weeks, and he had no clues. "They are here, sir." Karen's voice was intense. Obviously she was also quite nervous. Lazar turned to see 2 well-dressed American white men walking towards him. He walked towards them and held out his hand to greet them. "Hello, Detective Lazar," asked a tall man with short blonde hair and blue eyes, as he took Lazar's hand. "I am Agent Tom McLean from the United States FBI, and this is my partner Agent Hansen. We are here to assist you." He smiled half-heartedly at Lazar as he shook his hand. "Thank you for coming. This is my partner Detective Karen Luke." They all shook hands and the detectives welcomed the agents to Trinidad. The 2 detectives made sure the agents were taken to the Queen's Park Hotel. They made sure the agents were checked in and comfortable. Lazar felt uneasy about his first meeting with the Americans. He could not quite put his finger on it, but he just did not like the vibes coming from the 2 men. He tried to push the feelings away. Perhaps he was being a little possessive. This was his case and he wanted to handle it in his way. These Americans have no idea what they are dealing with, and he wished with all his heart that the Prime Minister had not invited them. "We would like to get started on this immediately, so why don't you bring us up to date, Lazar? What have we got?" McLean removed his jacket and tossed it on the bed, then perched himself on the arm of a stuffed chair and peered down at Lazar sitting on the couch. "Well, what do you want first, the children, or the businessmen?" asked Lazar, glaring back at him. "Give me the murders first." McLean clasped his hands and placed them between his thighs as he leaned forward on his perch. Karen opened her briefcase and removed 2 large files and placed them on the couch next to Lazar. He then handed the files over to McLean, who opened them and began to read through the one with the murder victims as Lazar spoke about each one. The first victim is Mr. Ronald Hayes. White male, 46 years old, an American jeweler from New York City. He arrived in the country on the 16th of January on a noon flight. He was carrying about 1 million in diamonds and other precious gems. He was well guarded, and the gems were placed in a safe only he could open. Yet on the morning of the 17th, Mr. Hayes was found by the maid, who went to awaken him after he did not respond to his wake-up call. His safe was then opened by us, and we found that his jewels were gone. McLean studied the picture of Mr. Hayes, then handed it to his partner Hanson, as Lazar continued. Next we have Mr. John Marlowe. White male, 52 years old. An American art dealer from New Orleans. He arrived in the country on the 20th of January on a 5:15 p.m. flight. He was carrying 12 very valuable African antiques masks. They too were placed in a safe and locked away. Mr. Marlowe was found dead the next morning in his bed. McLean handed Marlowe's picture to Hanson. Last of all is Mr. Brian King. White male, 41 years old, an American pharmacist from Seattle, Washington. He arrived here on the 28th of January on a 10 a.m. flight. According to customs, his 2 large trunks were filled with all kinds of rare drugs. He also was found the next morning dead like the others. What is the common thread between them besides the obvious similarities? Asked McLean as he handed the pictures of Mr. King to Hanson. You're sitting in it. Lazar smiled. It all happened here, at the Queen's Park Hotel. You mean all 3 men checked in here? Asked Hanson. That's right, and we questioned everyone, and I mean everyone, and no one heard or saw anything. Karen stood to her feet as she spoke. And how were they killed? Asked McLean. There was a moment of silence as the 2 agents looked to the detectives for an answer. Lazar answered slowly. Their brains were removed. We don't know how. What did you say? Asked Hanson, not believing his ears. To the morgue, take us to the morgue, immediately. Was all that McLean said as he grabbed his jacket off the bed and began to put it on. Karen grabbed the files quickly and put them together, putting them in her briefcase. All 4 set off for the morgue. As they were crossing the lobby of the hotel, McLean stopped and looked around. Hanson, he said abruptly. You stay here and launch a full investigation. I want the rooms where these men stayed in examined thoroughly and everyone here thoroughly investigated. Done. I will bring you up to date when you return. With these words and a wave of his hand, Agent Hanson left the others to return to his room. McLean said nothing to Lazar as they drove to the city on the way to the morgue. He sat in the back seat with his nose in the air and his eyes piercing out the window. Lazar could see him through the rear view mirror. The arrogant look on McLean's face made him noxious. Karen could feel the tension between the 2 men building, so she decided to break the ice. She turned and smiled at McLean. I hope you will be able to enjoy our beautiful island while you are here, Agent McLean. There are lots to see and do here. I usually vacation in Hawaii. I'm here to work, not have fun. Those words ended the conversation. Lazar could feel a cold sensation running upon his spine. He knew that if it reaches his head it would explode. He was so relieved to pull the car up in front of the morgue and to get out. McLean walked into the morgue as though he was the lord and master of the place. Lazar and Karen walked in behind him. I want to see the bodies of the 3 Americans, as well your report on them, Doctor. McLean shouted to the doctor, who was working on another body when he stormed into the room. Who the hell are you? Asked the doctor, looking up from the corpse. American FBI, that's who. McLean flashed his badge. The doctor looked at Lazar and Karen in disbelief. They are over here, in the freezers. He motioned for McLean to follow him. The doctor opened the freezers and pulled out the corpses, one at a time. McLean looked at each one closely. What killed them? He asked, still peering down at the corpses. Well, sir, I can give you my official answer, and my unofficial answer. The doctor smiled at him. Why don't you tell me officially what the hell killed these men, doctor? Snapped McLean. Officially, sir, they are dead because someone removed their brains. How it was done, I don't know, But if you would like to see the X-rays, I will gladly show them to you. The doctor then walked over to his desk and handed McLean 3 X-rays. He held them up, and was amazed at what he saw. This is impossible. Okay, doctor, what is your unofficial answer? Unofficially, sir, the Bakwas got to these 3 men and ate their brains. McLean's mouth fell open in disbelief. The what did what? He asked in confusion. Mr. FBI, sir. Why don't you go with the detective here to a quiet place, and let him explain to you what I just said? The doctor left him and went back to working on his corpse. McLean looked at Lazar, but he didn't volunteer any information. McLean walked out of the morgue, back to the car. What the hell is going on here? He asked Lazar as he leaned against the side of the car with his arms folded. Hell is exactly what this is, sir. Lazar was very serious. Wait a minute here. Are you going to tell me that this is voodoo? No, sir, this is not voodoo. Then what the hell is it? McLean shouted. It's Bakwa, sir. Bakwa. What the hell is Bakwa? I can't tell you what it is, but there is a woman called Mother Dora, she can tell you, that is, if we can get her to meet with us. Mother Dora, what is she? Some kind of psychic? Yes, that and much more. McLean laughed, threw his head back, and looked up at the sky. God please! He exclaimed. Are you serious, detective? I assure you, sir, I am very serious. I must ask you to consider the fact that this is Trinidad, you are no longer in America. And as backwards as you may think we are, there is a totally different culture here, and after you have been here for a while you may find that we are not so backwards. Lazar then got into the car, and so did Karen. McLean looked at them both in disbelief, then got in the car behind them. Lazar then dropped him off at the Queen's Park Hotel and left.